Welcome to Classics for Children.
We would like to present to you great works of literature in the form of choral speaking.
We hope in this way the melody, fun, and wonder of words put together by great authors will come alive to you. So, on with the show. Stories by Rudyard Kipling. It is called The Beginning of the Armadillos. This, oh best beloved, is another story of the high and far-off times. In the very middle of those times was a sickly, prickly hedgehog, and he lived on the banks of the turbid Amazon, eating shelly snails and things. And he had a friend, a slow, solid tortoise, who lived on the banks of the turbid Amazon, eating green lettuces and things. And so that was all right, best beloved. Do you see?
But also,
And at the same time, in those high and far-off times, there was a painted jaguar, and he lived on the banks of the turbid Amazon too.
And he ate everything that he could catch.
When he could not catch deer or monkeys, he would eat frogs and beetles.
and when he could not catch frogs and beetles, he went to his mother jaguar, and she told him how to catch hedgehogs and tortoises.
She said to him ever so many times, graciously waving her tail,
My son, when you find a hedgehog, you must drop him into the water, and then he will uncoil. And when you catch a tortoise, you must scoop him out of his shell with your paw.
And so that was all right, best beloved.
One beautiful night on the banks of the turbid Amazon, painted jaguar found stickly, prickly hedgehog and slow, solid tortoise sitting under the trunk of a fallen tree.
They could not run away, so Stickly Prickly curled himself up into a ball because he was a hedgehog.
And slow and solid tortoise to his head and feet into his shell as far as they would go because he was a tortoise.
And so that was all right, best beloved. Do you see?
Now attend to me, said Painted Jaguar, because this is very important. My mother said that when I meet a hedgehog, I am to drop him into the water and he will uncoil.
And when I meet a tortoise, I'm to scoop him out of his shell with my paw. Now, which of you is hedgehog and which is tortoise? Because to say my thoughts, I can't tell.
Are you sure of what your mommy told you? Said Stickly Prickly Hedgehog.
Are you quite sure?
Perhaps she said that when you uncoil a tortoise, you must shell him out of the water with a scoop. And when you paw a hedgehog, you must drop him on the shell.
Are you sure of what your mommy told you?
Said Slow Solid Tortoise.
Are you quite sure?
Perhaps she said that when you water a hedgehog, you must drop it into a paw.
And when you meet a tortoise, you must shell him till he uncoils.
I don't think Jaguar, but he felt a little puzzled. But please, say it again more distinctly.
When you scoop water with your paw, you will coil it with a hedgehog, said Stickly Prickly. Remember that, because it is important.
But,
Said the tortoise.
when you paw your meat, you drop it into a tortoise with a scoop.
Why can't you understand? You are making my spot think,
said Painted Jaguar.
and besides, I didn't want your advice at all. I only wanted to know which of you is hedgehog and which is tortoise. I shan't tell you,
Said Stickly Prickly.
but you can scoop me out of my shell if you like. Aha!
Said Painted Jaguar.
Now I know you're tortoise.
You thought I wouldn't. Now I will.
Painted Jaguar darted out his patty paw, just as Stickly Prickly curled himself up.
And of course, Jaguar's patty paw was just filled with prickles.
Worse than that, he knocked Stickly Prickly away and away to the woods and bushes where it was too dark to find him.
Then he put his patty paw into his mouth, and of course, the prickles hurt him worse than ever.
And as soon as he could speak, he said,
Now I know he isn't tortoise at all. But
and then he scratched his head with his unprickly paw.
how do I know that this other is tortoise?
But I am
tortoise, said Slow and Solid. Your mother was quite right. She said that you were to scoop me out of my shell with your paw. Begin.
You didn't say she said that a minute ago. Said the Jaguar, sucking the prickles out of his patty paw.
You said she said something quite different. Well, suppose you say that I said that she said something quite different. I don't see that it makes any difference, because if she said what you said, I say she said, it's just the same as if I said what she said.
On the other hand, if you think that she said that you were to uncoil me with a scoop instead of pawing me to drops with a shell,
I can't help that, can I? But you said you wanted to be scooped out of your shell with my paw.
Said Painted Jaguar.
If you'll think again, you'll find that I didn't say anything of the kind. I said that your mother said that you were to scoop me out of my shell,
Said Slow and Solid.
what will happen if I do?
said the Jaguar, most strictly and most cautious. I don't know, because I've never been scooped out of my shell before. But I tell you truly, if you want to see me swim away,
You've only got to drop me into the water.
I don't believe it.
Said Painted Jaguar.
You mixed up all the things my mother told me to do
With the things that you asked me whether I was sure that you didn't say.
till I don't know whether I'm on my head or my painted tail.
And now you come and tell me something I can understand. And it makes me more mixy than before.
My mother told me that to drop one of you two into the water. And as you seem so anxious to be dropped, I think that you don't want to be dropped.
So jump into the turbid Amazon
And be quick about it.
I warn you that your mommy won't be pleased.
Don't tell her I didn't tell you.
Said Slow and Solid.
If you say another word about what my mother said,
The Jaguar answered, but he had not finished a sentence before Slow and Solid quietly dived into turbid Amazon.
swam underwater for a long way, and came out on the bank where Stickly Prickly was waiting for him.
That was a very narrow
escape,
said Stickly Prickly.
I don't like Painted Jaguar. What did you tell him that you were?
I told him truthfully that I was a truthful tortoise, but he wouldn't believe it.
And he made me jump into the river to see if I was. And I was, and he is surprised. Now he's gone to tell his mummy.
Listen to him!
They could hear Painted Jaguar roaring up and down among the trees and the bushes by the side of the turbid Amazon till his mummy came.
Son! Son! Said his mother ever so many times, graciously waving her tail. What have you been doing that you shouldn't have done?
I tried to scoop something that said it wanted to be scooped out of its shell with my paw. And my paw is full of prickles.
Said Painted Jaguar.
Son! said Mother Jaguar ever so many times, graciously waving her tail.
By the prickles in your patty bum, I see that there must have been a hedgehog. You should have dropped it in the water.
I did, that's the other thing. And he said he was a tortoise.
And I didn't believe him. And it was quite true.
And he has dived under the turbid Amazon, and he won't come up again.
And I haven't anything at all to eat. And I think we had better find lodging somewhere else.
They are too clever on the turbid Amazon for poor me.
Said his mother ever so many times, graciously waving her tail.
Now attend to me and remember what I say. A hedgehog curls himself up into a ball, and his prickles stick out every which way at once. By this you may know the hedgehog.
I don't like this old lady one little bit,
said Stickly Prickly under the shadow of a large leaf.
I wonder what else she knows.
A tortoise can't curl himself up.
Mother Jaguar went on ever so many times, graciously waving her tail.
He only draws his head and legs into his shell. By this you may know the tortoise.
I don't like this old lady at all,
said Slow and Solid Tortoise. Even Painted Jaguar can't forget those directions.
It's a great pity you can't swim, Stickly Prickly.
don't talk to me.
Said Stickly Prickly.
Just think how much better it would be if you could curl up. This is a mess. Listen to Painted Jaguar.
Painted Jaguar was sitting on the banks of the turbid Amazon, sucking prickles out of his paws and saying to himself, "Can't curl but can't swim. Slow, solid, that's him. Curls up but can't swim. Stickly, prickly, that's him."
He'll never forget that this month of Sunday.
Said Stickly Prickly.
Hold up my chin, Slow and Solid. I'm going to try to learn to swim. It may be useful.
"Excellent," said Slow and Solid, and he held up Stickly Prickly's chin.
While Stickly Prickly kicked in the waters of the turbid Amazon.
"You'll make a fine swimmer yet."
Said Slow and Solid.
"Now, if you can unlace my back plates a little, I'll see what I can do towards curling up. It may be useful."
Stickly Prickly helped unlace Tortoise's back plates.
So that by twisting and straining, Slow and Solid actually managed to curl up a titty wee bit.
Excellent.
Said Stickly Prickly.
But I shouldn't do any more just now.
It's making you black in the face. Kindly lead me into the water once again, and I'll practice that side stroke which you say is so easy.
And so Stickly Prickly practiced as Slow and Solid swam alongside.
"Excellent.
Said Slow and Solid.
A little more practice will make you a regular whale. Now, if I may trouble you to unlace my back and front plates 2 holes more."
I'll try that fascinating then, but you say it's so easy.
"Won't Painted Jaguar be surprised?"
Excellent.
said Stickly Prickly, all wet from the turbid Amazon.
I declare I shouldn't know you from one of my own family.
2 holes, I think you said.
A little more expression, please, and don't grunt quite so much, or Painted Jaguar may hear us.
And when you're finished, I want to try that long dive you say is so easy.
Won't Painted Jaguar be surprised?
And so Stickly Prickly dived, and Slow and Solid dived alongside.
Excellent!
Said Slow and Solid.
A little more attention to holding your breath.
And you will be able to keep house on the bottom of the turbid Amazon.
Now I'll try that exercise of wrapping my hind legs behind my ears, which stands peculiarly comfortable. Won't Painted Jaguar be surprised?
Excellent.
Said Stickly Prickly. But in straightening your back plates a little, they are all overlapping now instead of laying side by side.
Oh, that's the result of exercise.
Said Slow and Solid.
I've noticed that your prickles seem to be melting into one another, and that you're growing to look rather more like a pine cone and less like a chestnut burr
Than you used to,
Am I?
said Stickly Prickly.
exercises, each helping each other till the morning came.
And when the sun was high, they rested and dried themselves.
Then they saw that they were, both of them, quite different from what they had been.
Stickly prickly,
said Tortoise after breakfast.
I am not what I was yesterday.
But I think that I may yet have used Painted Jaguar.
That is the very thing I was thinking just now.
Said Stickly Prickly.
I think scales are a tremendous improvement of Prickle.
To say
Nothing of being able to swim. Won't Painted Jaguar be surprised?
Let's go and find him.
By and by, they found Painted Jaguar still nursing his patty paw that had been hurt the night before.
He was so astonished that he fell 3 times backward over his own painted tail without stopping.
Good morning.
Said Stickly Prickly.
And how is your dear gracious mummy this morning?
She is quite well, thank you.
But you must forgive me if at this precise moment I do not recall your name.
That's unkind of you.
Said Stickly Prickly.
Seeing that this time yesterday you tried to scoop me out of my shell with your paw.
But you had a shell. It was all prickles.
Said Painted Jaguar.
I know it was. Just look at my paw.
You told me to jump into the turbid Amazon and be drowned.
Said slow and solid.
Why are you so rude and forgetful today?
Don't you remember what your mother told you? Can't curl but can swim. Stickly prickly, that's him. Curls up but can't swim. Slow solid, that's him.
Then they both curled themselves up
And rolled round and round, Painted Jaguar, till his eyes turned truly cartwheels in his head.
Then he went to fetch his mother.
Mother!
He said.
There are 2 new animals in the woods today.
And the one that you said couldn't swim, swims. And the one you said couldn't curl up, curls.
And they've gone shares in their prickles.
I think because both of them are scaly all over. Instead of one being smooth and the other very prickly. And besides that, they're rolling round and round in circles and I don't feel comfy.
Son!
Said Mother Jaguar ever so many times, graciously waving her tail.
A hedgehog is a hedgehog. And can never be anything but a hedgehog. A tortoise is a tortoise. And can never be anything else. But it isn't a hedgehog and it isn't a tortoise.
It's a little bit of both. I don't know its proper name.
Nonsense! Everything has its proper name. I should call it armadillo till I find out the real one. And I should leave it alone.
And so Painted Jaguar did as he was told, especially about leaving them alone.
But the curious thing is that from that day to this,
Oh, best beloved, no one on the banks of the turbid Amazon has ever called Stickly Prickly and Slow and Solid anything except armadillo.
There are hedgehogs and tortoises in other places, of course.
There are some in my garden, but the real old and clever kind, with their scales lying lippity-lappity one over the other,
Like pine cone scales.
That ever lived on the banks of the turbid Amazon in those high far-off days.
are always called armadillos because they were so clever. So that's all right, best beloved. Do you see?
The first and second graders are going to present the tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and gotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages, and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not, unfortunately, run into a gooseberry and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Mr. McGregor came up with a zip which he intended to put upon the top of Peter, but Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him, and rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a cab. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath the flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently, Peter sneezed. Country true! Mr. McGregor was after him in no time, and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of the window, upsetting 3 planets. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter. He went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp with sitting in that camp. After a time, he began to wander about, going lippity-lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently, he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water can. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back toward the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scritch! Scratch! Scratch! Scritch! Peter scuttered underneath the bushes, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon the wheelbarrow and peeked over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate.
not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the woods outside the garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and shoes toward a scarecrow to frighten the blackbird. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. I am sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea and gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoonful to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. The end.
Our story is Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne. It is called In Which We Are Introduced to Winnie the Pooh and some bees, and the stories begin.
Here is Edward Bear coming downstairs now. Bump, bump, bump on the back of his head.
Behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs.
But sometimes he feels that there really is another way. If only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it.
And then he feels that perhaps there isn't.
Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh.
When I first heard his name, I said just as you are going to say, but I thought he was a boy. So did I, said Christopher Robin. Then you can't call him Winnie. I don't, but you said he's Winnie the Pooh. Don't you know what there means?
Ah, yes, now I do, and I hope you do too, because it's all the explanation you're going to get.
Sometimes Winnie the Pooh likes a game of some sort when he comes downstairs. And sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story.
This evening, what about a story? Said Christopher Robin.
What about a story, I said?
Could you very sweetly tell Winnie the Pooh one?
I suppose I could. What story does he like?
About himself, because he's that sort of bear.
Oh, I see.
So could you very sweetly?
I'll try, I said.
So I tried.
Once upon a time, a very long time ago now, about last Friday, Winnie the Pooh lived in a forest all by himself under the name of Sanders.
What does under the name mean? Asked Christopher Robin.
It means he had the name over the door in gold letters and lived under it.
Winnie the Pooh isn't quite sure, said Christopher Robin.
Now I am, said a growly voice.
Then I will go on, said I.
One day when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest. In the middle of this place was a large oak tree, and from the top of the tree there came a loud buzzing noise.
Winnie the Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. First of all, he said to himself, that buzzing noise means something.
You don't get a buzzing noise like that.
Just buzzing and buzzing
Without its meaning something.
If there's a buzzing noise, somebody's making a buzzing noise. And the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee. Then he thought another long time and said, and the only reason for being a bee that I know of is making honey. And then he got up and said, and the only reason for making honey is so as I can eat it. So he began to climb
time. So that's why he sang a complaining song. He was nearly there now, and if he just stood on that branch, crack! Oh, hell! Said Pooh and dropped 10 feet in the branch below him. If only I hadn't! He said as he bounced 20 feet onto the next branch. You see what I meant to do, he explained as he turned head over heels and crashed onto another branch 30 feet below. What I meant to do? Of course it was, rather. He admitted as he slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. It all comes, I suppose. He decided as he said goodbye to the last branch, spun around 3 times and flew gracefully into a gorse bush. It all comes of liking honey so much. Oh, how! He crawled out the gorse bush, brushed the prickles from his nose, and began to stink again. And the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. Was that me, said Christopher Robin in an odd voice, hardly daring to believe it. That was you. Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger, and his face got pinker and pinker. So Winnie the Pooh went round to his friend Christopher Robin, who lived behind the green door in another part of the forest. Good morning, Winnie. Good morning, Christopher Robin. Good morning, Winnie the Pooh, said you. I wonder if you have such thing as a balloon about you. A balloon? Yes, I just said to myself coming along, I wonder Christopher Robin had such a thing as a balloon about him. I just said this to myself, thinking of balloons and wondering. What do you want to do before you said? Winnie the Pooh looked round to see that nobody was listening, put his paw to his mouth, and said in a deep whisper, Honey! You don't get honey with balloons. I do, said Pooh. Well, it just happened that you had been to a party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet. You had balloons at the party. You had a big green balloon, and one of Rabbit's relations had a big blue one, and had left it behind, being really too young to go to a party at all. So you had brought the green one and the blue one home with you. Which one would you like, you asked Pooh? He put his head between his paws and thought very carefully. It's like this, said Winnie the Pooh. When you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is not to let the bees know you're coming. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think that you are only part of the tree and not notice you. And if you have a blue balloon, they might think that you are only part of the sky and not notice you. And the question is, which is most likely? Wouldn't they notice you underneath the balloon? They might, or they might not, said Winnie the Pooh. You never can tell with bees. He thought for a moment and said, I shall try to look like a small black cloud. That will deceive them. Then you had better have the blue balloon, you said. And so it was decided. Well, you both went out with a blue balloon and you took your gun with you just in case, as you always did. And then Winnie the Pooh went to a very muddy place that he knew of and rolled until it was black all over. Then, when the balloon was blown up as big, you and Pooh were both holding on to the string. You let go suddenly, and Pooh Bear floated gracefully up into the sky and stayed there, level with the tops of the trees, and about 20 feet away from them. Hooray! You shouted! Isn't that fine? Shouted Winnie the Pooh down to you. What do I look like? You look like a bear holding on to a balloon, you said. Not, said Pooh anxiously, not like a small black cloud in a blue sky. Not very much. Ah, well, perhaps from up here it looks different. And as I say, you never can tell with bees. There was no wind to blow him near the tree, so there he stayed,
Healthy deception when you were practicing on these bees.
Well, you laughed to yourself, silly old bear, but you didn't say it aloud because you were so fond of him, and you went home for your umbrella.
Oh, there you are, called out Winnie the Pooh as soon as you got back to the tree. I was beginning to get anxious. I have discovered that the bees are now definitely suspicious. Shall I put my umbrella up? You said?
Yes, but wait a moment. We must be practical. The important bee to deceive is the queen bee.
Can you see which is the queen bee from down there?
No! Oh, pity. Well, now if you walk up and down with your umbrella saying, tut, tut, it looks like rain, I shall do what I can by singing a little cloud song, such as a cloud might sing. Go!
So while you walked up and down, wondering if it will rain, Winnie the Pooh sang this song. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. Every little cloud always sings aloud. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. It makes him very proud to be a little cloud.
The bees are still buzzing as suspiciously as ever.
And indeed, some of them left their nest and flew where the cloud began the second verse of his song.
And one bee sat on the nose of the cloud for a moment and got up again.
Christopher out! Robin! Called up the cloud. Yes? I have just been thinking.
And I have come to a very important decision.
These are the wrong sort of bees. Are they? Quite the wrong sort. So I should think they would make the wrong sort of honey. Shouldn't you? Would they? Yes, so I think I shall come down now. How, ask you? Winnie the Pooh had thought about this. If he let go of the balloon, he would fall. And he didn't like the idea of that. So then he thought for a long time and said, Christopher Robin, you must shoot the balloon with your gun. Have you got your gun? Of course I have, you said. But if I do that, it will spoil the balloon, you said. But if you don't, said Pooh, I shall have to let go, and that would spoil me. Put it like this, you saw how it was, and you aimed very carefully at the balloon and fired. Ow! Said Pooh. Did I miss? You asked. You didn't exactly miss, said Pooh, but you missed the balloon. I'm so sorry, you said. And then fired again, and this time you hit the balloon, and the air came slowly out, and Winnie the Pooh floated down to the ground.
But his arms were so stiff from holding onto the string of the balloon all that time that they stayed up straight in the air for more than a week. And when a fly came and settled on his nose, he had to blow it off.
And I think, but I am not sure, that is why he was always called Pooh. That's the end of the story, asked Christopher Robin. That's the end of that one. There are others about Pooh and me, and Piglet and Rabbit and all of you. Don't you remember? I do remember, but when I try to remember, I forget. That day when Pooh and Piglet tried to catch a heffalump, they didn't catch it, did they? No. Pooh couldn't because he hadn't any brains. Did I catch it? Well, that comes into the story. Christopher Robin nodded. I do remember, he said. Only Pooh does it very well. That's why he likes having it told to him again. Because then it's a real story, not just a remembering. That's just how I feel, I said.
Christopher Robin gave a deep sigh,
Picked his bear up by the legs and walked off to the door, trailing Pooh behind him.
At the door he turned and said,
Coming to see me at my bath? I might, he said. I didn't hurt him when I shot him, Brunswick,
by famous Hanover City.
The river waves are deep and wide. Watch its walls on the southern side.
A pleasanter spot you never spied.
But when begins my ditty?
Almost 500 years ago. To see the townsfolk suffer so from vermin was a pity.
Rats! They fought the
And
dogs.
killed the cats.
And bit the babies in the cradle.
And ate the cheeses out of the bag. And licked the soup from the cook's old ladles.
Split open the kegs of salted sprats.
My nest inside my Sunday hat.
And even spoiled the women's chats.
By drowning their speaking
With shrieking
And squeaking!
in 50 different shirts and flats.
At last the people in a body to the town hall came flocking.
'Tis clear.
Cried they.
Our mayor's a naughty.
And as for our corporation, shocking.
To think we buy coats lined with ermine for dolts who can't or won't determine what's best to rid us of our vermin.
You hope because you're old and obese to find in furry civic robe ease,
Rouse up, sirs. Give your brain a racking.
to find the remedy we're lacking.
Or sure as fate will send you packing.
At this, the mayor and corporation quaked with a mighty consternation. An hour they sat in council. At length, the mayor broke silence.
For a guilder on my ermine gown self, I wish there were a mile hence. It's easy to bid one rack one's brain. I'm sure my poor head aches again. I scratched it so, and all in vain. Oh, for a trap! A trap!
A trap!
Just as he said this, what should hap at the chamber door but a gentle tap?
Bless us!
Cried the mayor.
What's that? With the corporation as he sat, looking little though wondrous fat. No brighter was the eye nor moister than a too long open oyster. Save when at noon his paunch grew mutinous for a plate of turtle, green and gluttonous.
Only a scratching of shoes in the mat.
Anything like the sound of a rat makes my heart go pit-a-pat. Come in, the mayor cried, looking bigger. And in did come the strangest figure. His queer long coat from heel to head was half of yellow and half of red.
And he himself was tall and thin, with sharp blue eyes each like a pin. With light loose hair, yet swarthy skin. No tuft on cheek, nor beard on chin. But lips for smile went out and in. There was no guessing his kith for kin, and nobody could enough admire the tall man in his quaint attire. Quoth one, it says my great-grandsire starting up at the trunks of tombstone, had he walked this way from his painted tombstone.
He advanced to the council table and,
Please, your honors,
said he,
I'm able, by means of a secret chart, to draw all creatures living beneath the sun, that creep, or swim, or fly, or run, after me, so as you never saw, and I chiefly use my charm on creatures that do people harm, the mole, and toad, and newt, and viper, and people call me the Pied Piper. And here they noticed round his neck a scarf of red and yellow stripe, to match with his coat of the self-same check. And at the scarf's end hung a pipe, and his fingers they noticed were ever straying, as if impatient to be playing upon this pipe as low it dangled over his vesture so old-fangled. Yet, said he, poor piper as I am, in Tartary I breathe the chant. Last June from his huge swarm of gnats, I eased in Asia thine I damned, but monsters brood a vampire bat. And as for what your brave bewithers, if I could rid your tenor red, will you give me 1,000 guilders?
150,000!
Was the exclamation of the astonished mayor and corporation.
Into the street the piper stepped, smiling at first a little smile, as if he knew what magic slept in his quiet pipe the while. Then, like a musical adept, to blow the pipe his lips he wrinkled, and green and blue his sharp eyes twinkled, like a candle flame where salt is sprinkled. And ere 3 shrill notes the pipe uttered, you heard as if an army muttered, and the muttering grew to a grumbling, and the grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling, and out of the house the rats came tumbling.
Great rats!
Brawny rats!
Brown rats! Black rats! Gray rats! Tawny rats!
Grave old platters!
Gay young friskers!
Fathers, mothers,
Uncles! Cousins! Pecky tails! Picking whiskers!
families by tens and dozens.
Brothers!
Sisters,
Husbands!
wives,
Follow the piper for their lives!
From street to street he piped advancing, and step by step they followed dancing, until they
save one who stout as Julius Caesar swam across and lived to carry, as he the manuscript he cherished to Ratland home, his commentary, which was,
At the first shrill notes of the pipe, I heard a sound as of scraping trike, and putting apples, wondrous right, into a cider press is great, and a moving away a pickle type boys, and a leaving a jar of corn soup cuttings, and a drawing the curse, on train oil flasks, and a breaking the hoops of butter cans, and it seemed as if a voice, sweet far my harp is sultry, is free, called out, all rats, rejoice, the world is grown to one vast, dry, sultry. Chew mutton, cruncheon, take your nutcheon, breakfast, supper, dinner, luncheon. Already stays like a great sun throne. Glorious scarce, an inch before me. Just as we thought, it said, come morning. I found the waves are rolling o'er me.
You should have warned the Hamlet people. Ring the bells, they rock the steeple.
Go, cried the mayors, get long poles, poke out the nests and black up the holes, consult with carpenters and builders, and leave in our town not even one trace of the rats.
When suddenly, up the face of the piper parked in the marketplace without.
First, if you please, my 1,000 guilders.
1,000 guilders? The mayor looked blue. So did the corporation, too. For council dinners made rare havoc, with claret, moselle, vinaigrette, hock, and half the money would replenish their cellars big as fudge with Rhenish. To pay the sum to a wandering fellow with a gypsy coat of red and yellow. Besides, quoth the mayor with a knowing wink, our business was done at the river's brink. We saw with our eyes the vermin sink, and what's said can't come to life, I think. So, friend, we're not the folks to shrink from the duty of giving you something to drink, and a matter of money to put in your poke. But as for the guilders, what we spoke of them, as you very well know, was a joke. Besides, our losses had made us thrifty. 1,000 guilders, come, take 50.
The piper's face fell, and he cried,
No, trifling, I can't wait. Besides, I promised to visit by dinner time Baghdad and accept with the prime of the head cook's cottage all he's richen. For leaving the cannon's kitchen a nest of scorpions, no survivors. With him, I prove no bargain driver. With you, don't think I'll bait a stiver. And folks who put me in a fashion may find my pipe to another passion.
How, cried the mayor.
Do you think I'll brook, being worse treated than a cook?
Insulted by a lazy rebel,
With an idle pipe and vesture rival.
You threaten us, fellow, do your worst.
Blow your pipe there till you burst.
Once more he stepped into the street, and to his lips again laid his long pipe of smooth, straight cane, and he blew 3 notes, such sweet, soft notes, as yet musician's cunning never gave the enraptured air.
There was a rustling,
That seemed like a bustling.
A merry crowd jostling.
and pitching,
And hustling.
Small feet were pattering.
Wooden shoes clattering.
Little hands clapping.
and little tongues chattering.
And like fowls in a barnyard where barley is scattering.
Out came the children running.
All the little boys and girls, with rosy cheeks and flaxen curls, and sparkling eyes and teeth like pearls, tripping and skipping, ran merrily after the wonderful music with shouting and laughter.
The mayor was dumb.
And the council stood as if they were changed into blocks of wood. Unable to move a step or cry. The children merrily skipping by.
And could only follow with the eye the joyous crowd at the piper's back.
But how the mayor was on the rack, and the wretched council's bosoms beat, as the piper turned from the high street, to where the waves are rolled as waters, right in the way of their sons and daughters.
However, he turned from south to west, and to Cobbleburg Hill his steps addressed. Great was the joy in every breast.
He never can cross that mighty top. He's forced to let the piping drop, and we shall see our children stop.
When lo, as they reached the mountainside, a wondrous portal opened wide, as if a cavern suddenly hollowed. The piper advanced, and the children followed, and when all were in to the very last, the door of the mountain shut fast.
Did I say all? No. One was lame. It could not dance the whole of the way. And in after years, if you would blame his sadness, he was used to say,
It's dawn at our town since my playmates left. I can't forget that I'm bereft of all the pleasant sights they see, which the piper also promised me. He led us, he said, to a joyous land, joined the town just at hand, where waters gushed and fruit trees grew, and flowers put forth the berrier hue, and everything was strange and new. The sparrows were brighter than peacocks here, and their dogs outran our fallow deer, and honeybees had lost their stings, and horses were born with eagle's wings. And just as I became assured, my lame foot be speedily cured, the music stopped, and I stood still, and found myself outside the hill, left alone against my will, to go now limping as before, and never hear that country more.
Alas, alas for Hamlin. There came into many a burgher's pate a text that says that heaven's gate opens to the rich at his easy rate as a needle's eye takes a camel in.
And the mayor said east, west, north, and south, to offer the piper by word of mouth, wherever it was men's lot to find him, silver and gold to his heart's content, if only he'd return the way he went, and bring the children all behind him. But when they saw 'twas a lost endeavor, the piper and dancers were gone forever. They made a decree that lawyers never should think their records dated duly, if, after the day of the month and year, these words did not as well appear.
And so long after what happened here, on the 22nd of July, 1376.
And the better in memory to fix the place of the children's last retreat, they called it the Piper Street, where anyone playing a pipe or tabor was sure for the future to lose his labor, nor suffer them hostelry nor tavern to shaft with mirth the street so solemn. But opposite the place of the tavern, they wrote the story on a column.
And on the great church window painted, the same to make the world acquainted, how their children were stolen away, and there it stands to this very day.
And I must not omit to say
that in Transylvania there is a tribe of alien people that ascribe the outlandish ways of dress
on which their neighbors lay such stress, to their fathers and mothers having risen out of some subterraneous prison, into which they were trepanned long time ago in a mighty band, out of Hamlin town in Brunswick land. But how or why we don't understand.
So Willie, let you and me be wipers of scores out with all men.
Especially pipers.
And whether they pipe us free from rats or from mice,
If we promise them aught, let us keep our promise.
Let's give it a go. Thanks for coming.
wait a minute, the teachers don't think they can leave without getting their flowers.
On behalf of Birchwood School, we would like to thank Mrs. This is my first name. And Mrs. Devlak and Mrs. Trump for patience and a lot of time.
Thank you.
The whole staff shares the effort. I just, want to thank the other teachers. It's always a group effort. Everybody helps. And the students really, this year, to do prose was a lot harder than we thought. To sustain the energy of one long thing rather than little pieces of poetry was quite something. So I think they deserve another.
Okay, I just want to make a couple comments. I don't think any of us will ever read the classics again. Just for a couple of minutes. I know you've been sitting a long time. I don't think any of us will ever read those classics again without thinking of your performance. And if any of us have ever had to memorize anything, even something that was 5 minutes long, we appreciate all the hard work that went into this to make our afternoon so pleasant. Thank you very much. Let's give them another hand. library to pick you up, so they said just wait for them. They'll try to go home.
Say something.
Mine!
And I must not omit to say that in Transylvania there is a tribe of alien people that ascribe the outlandish ways of dress, on which their neighbors lay such stress. To their fathers and mothers having risen out of some subterraneous prison, into which they were trepanned long time ago in a mighty band, out of Hamlin town in Brunswick land. But how or why they don't understand.
So Willie, let you and me be wipers of scores out with all men.
Especially pipers. And whether they pipe us free from rats or from mice,
If we promise them aught, let us keep our promise.
That's the end of the show. Thanks for coming.
what does under the name mean? Asked Christopher Robin. It means he had the name over the door in gold letters and the number. Winnie the Pooh wasn't quite sure, said Christopher Robin. Now I am, then I will go on. One day when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest. In the middle of this place was a large oak tree, and from the top of the tree there came a loud buzzing. Winnie the Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. First of all, he said to himself, again. And the first person he thought was Christopher Robin. Was that you, said Christopher Robin, in an odd voice, hardly daring to believe it? That was you. Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger, and his face got pinker and pinker. So Winnie the Pooh went round to his friend Christopher Robin, who lived behind a green door in another part of the forest. Good morning, Christopher Robin, he said. Good morning, Winnie the Pooh, said you. I wonder if you have such thing as a balloon about you. A balloon? Yes, I just said to myself, coming along, I wonder, Christopher Robin, has such a thing as a balloon about you. I just said this to myself, thinking of balloons and what do you want a balloon for, he said. Christopher Robin looked around. Winnie the Pooh looked around to see that nobody was listening, put his paw to his mouth and said in a deep whisper, honey! You don't get honey with balloons. I do, said Pooh. Well, it just happened that you had been to the party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet, and you had balloons at the party. You had had a big green balloon, and one of Rabbit's relations had had a big blue one, and had left it behind, being really too young to go to a party at all. So you had brought the green one and the blue one home with you. Which one would you like, you asked Pooh? He put his head between his paws and thought very carefully. It's like this, said Winnie the Pooh. When you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is not to let the bees know you're coming. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think that you were only part of the tree and not notice you. And if you have a blue balloon, they may just think you're part of the sky and not notice you. And the question is, which is most likely? Wouldn't they notice you underneath the balloon? They might or they might not, said Winnie the Pooh. You never can tell with bees. He thought for a moment and said, I shall try to look like a small black cloud. That will deceive them. And you had better have the blue balloon, you said. And so it was decided. Well, you both went out with the blue balloon, and you took your gun with you just in case, as you always did. And then Winnie the Pooh went to a very muddy place that he knew of, and rolled until it was black all over. Then, when the balloon was going to big, you and Pooh were both holding on to the string, you let go suddenly, and Pooh Bear floated gracefully up into the sky and stayed there, level with the tops of the trees and about 20 feet away from it. Hooray! He shouted. Isn't that fine? Shouted Winnie the Pooh down to you. What do I look like? You look like a bear holding on to a balloon, you said. Not, said Pooh anxiously. Not like a small black cloud in the blue sky. Not very much. Oh, well, perhaps from up here it looks different. And as I say, you never can tell with bees. There was no wind to blow him near the tree, so there he stayed. He could see the honey, he could smell the honey, but he couldn't quite reach the honey. After a little while, he called down to you. Christopher Robin, he said in a loud whisper. Hello? I think the bees suspect something. What sort of thing? I don't know, but something tells me they're suspicious. Perhaps they think that you're after their honey. Indeed that. You never can tell with bees. There was another little silence, and then he called down to you again. Christopher Robin! Yes? Have you an umbrella in your house? I think so. I think if you would bring it out here and walk up and down with it and look up at me every now and then and say, tick-tock, it looks like rain. I think if you would do that, it would help the deception if you were practicing on your bees. Well, you laughed to yourself, silly old bear, but you didn't say it aloud because you were so fond of him, and you went home for your umbrella. Oh, there wondering if it will rain. Winnie the Pooh sang this.
How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. Every little cloud always sings aloud. How sweet to be a cloud
To see the
floating
bees
in
smile.
the blue. It makes him very proud to be a little cloud.
The bees are still buzzing as suspiciously as ever.
And indeed, some of them left their nest and flew on the cloud as began a second verse of his song.
And one bee sat on the nose of the cloud for a moment and got up again.
Christopher L. Robin caught up the cloud. Yes,
I have just been thinking.
And I have come to a very important decision.
these are the wrong sorts of bees. Are they?
Quite the wrong sort. So I should think they picked the wrong sort of honey, should you?
Would they?
Yes, I think I shall come down.
I'll ask you.
Winnie the Pooh had thought about this. If he let go of the balloon, he would fall. And he didn't like the idea of that. Then he thought for a long time and said, Christopher Robin, you must shoot the balloon with your gun. Have you got your gun?
Of course I have.
You
Said, but if I do that, it would spoil the balloon. You said, but if you don't, said Pooh, I shall have to let go, and that would spoil me.
Put it like this. You saw how it was, and you looked very carefully at the balloon and fired.
Ow! Said Pooh. Did I miss? You asked. Didn't exactly miss, said Pooh, but you missed the balloon. I'm so sorry, you said.
And you fired again, and this time you hit the balloon, and the air came slowly out, and Winnie the Pooh floated down to the ground.
But his arms were so stiff from holding onto the string of the balloon all that time.
They stayed up straight in the air for more than a week.
And when a fly came and settled on his nose, he had to blow it off.
And I think, but I am not sure, that is why he was always called Pooh.
No, it's not the end.
That's the end of the story. That's Christopher Robin. That's the end of that one. There are others.
About
Pooh and me, and Piglet and Rabbit, and all of you. Don't you remember? I do remember. When I try to remember, I forget. That day when Pooh and Piglet tried to catch the heffalump, they didn't catch it, did they? No. Pooh couldn't because he hadn't any brain. Did I catch it? Well, that comes into the story.
Christopher Robin nodded. I do remember, he said. Only Pooh does it very well.
That's why he likes having the story told to him again. Because then it's a real story.
Not just a remembering.
That's just how I feel, I said.
Christopher Robin gave a deep sigh.